And welcome back to the ExpressWay. I am Charles. Show me the way here with the BT Express Billy Taylor. And we are back at it, depressed, better more than ever before after that terrible loss against the Denver Broncos. BT, I did pick the Denver Broncos. You picked the G men, even though I was hoping that they would pull this game out. But you know, my main blame for this loss will focus on one dude I've been harping about this entire season, leading up to the season, at the end, talking about him at the end of last season, and that's Shane Bowen. It's the defensive coordinator. I'm just not impressed with him. I wasn't impressed with him when he was at Tennessee. I didn't love their defenses. One of the main reasons why Tennessee was based because their defense wasn't that great. It was like a bend but don't break defense. I don't think you can win in a league today like that. But let me get your thoughts before I kind of go on my rampage against the defensive coordinator.
Yeah, I'm the thing about it is I'm tripping also. I'm taking the blame to Brian Dable. And my reason is that you have the ball. With they have one timeout. You run the ball, the clock is going to move, and then you punt the ball to make them go a larger length of the field to score. He puts the hands of the game in a rookie quarterback when you already have the victory there. Why put him in that situation? You're on the road, it's a hostile crowd, and then you throw an interception, which is when you drop back to pass, CW, there's only two bad things that could happen. One is you fumble, the other was an interception. And the bad thing, if he had a thrown, I mean, the other was an interception. But the other thing is that even if they don't connect on the pass, at least they still can punt the ball. But to put for the coach whose job is on the line and winning the game, they have the ball and to put it in the hands of the rookie quarterback. It's hard for me to fathom that. And I definitely think that Brian Dable made the wrong call. And you could blame it on the offensive coordinator, but the head coach takes care of wins and losses. Who do you blame, Charles Way?
I told you, I think this blame goes squarely on the defense. I think our DBs, we talked about it, and you know what? I was already had my monologue all laid out, saying that I was totally wrong about the defensive backs. They had a great game for 3 quarters. Cordell Flott wasn't committing his numerous turnovers. He wasn't letting balls get caught on him. He wasn't playing off coverage. I was about to come in here and say, "Hey, Drew Phillips, everybody, DBs, yo, you are the team. Everybody, Brian Adebo went out. Deontay Banks came in the game. He wasn't flopping and flip flopping all over the place. I was very excited about the secondary. I was like, man, they may actually have a chance to be a really, really tough out in the playoffs. And I'm talking about making the playoffs because they have a team. They got the excitement, they got the energy, they got all of that. But the fourth quarter came around and depression set in. The DBs weren't making plays. They were making off coverage. They weren't putting a rush on. They didn't get pressure on the quarterback. Whole lot of things, cropped up in this game. And I really want to focus on the defense before we get to the offensive side of the ball because I think the offense played well. Everybody played well. You can't fault Jackson Dart. You can fault him for the interception, but he's a rookie. He made a bonehead mistake. He should have just ran the ball instead of trying to throw the ball and just take it for what it's worth. Keep the clock running. I do have something I would have done, and I want your opinion on when we get to the offense. But my focus is right now is on the defense and the lack of pass rush, the lack of ability for these DBs to cover these guys, whether it's off coverage or not. You got in a zone, you play a field, you play your area. You know where the ball is going, you know route patterns, you know where to go. It shouldn't have happened like that.
I thought that they went away from what they did all game to be in that position. Brian Burns had 2 sacks in the game. They were putting pressure on the quarterback. They went to three people rushing and dropped 8 in the zone and made it easier for a quarterback. He had time to throw, survey the field. If you keep the rush on, then I think that puts the pressure on him. He wasn't playing that good anyway, so why let him out of what you were doing? The other thing is this, and we talked about it last week. I think that during the course of the game, the Giants played one of their better defensive games in quite some time. I was right with you on Phillips and some of the defensive backs playing outstanding. Everybody's playing well, but I really believe this, Charles Way. Check me out. I think they wore down in the atmosphere in Denver. It is hard to play. I saw them get tired in the fourth quarter. I saw them look like they were dying, and that don't happen anywhere else. It's just that when you go above sea level, and the only reason I'm telling you because I did it. I played ball in Denver. I couldn't even breathe, and I thought I was worried about the Giants' offense going three and out and bring the defense back and keep going back. When you rush in the passer like they were and putting that kind of pressure, it's got to get to you. And I would really be able to put some money on that they just wore under the atmosphere of Denver. It was Orange Crush Day. They don't have no extra seats in there for Giant fans. They didn't come in. It was all orange, and that had to be one of the loudest stadiums in the fourth quarter that I seen at that time. So I'm blaming on being worn down and the offense not doing what they're supposed to do. I agree with you on the defense, but I just think that during the course of the game, a lot of those fellas had to go get oxygen on the sideline.
But I think a lot of the heat is coming down on Shane Bowen. You hear a
Yeah.
lot of the players questioning some of the defensive play calls in that fourth quarter. Why weren't they as aggressive as they were? And I was surprised at the beginning of the game. They were more aggressive than I was used to seeing. They were playing press coverage. They were hitting receivers off the line of scrimmage, even though they may not have been playing man. They were hitting guys off the line of scrimmage. You saw DBs close to the receivers. You saw guys making plays without committing penalties. I was excited. I was like, man, this team has turned it around. And then the fourth quarter, I'm like, did we just go back into a time capsule and went back to the way they used to play a couple of games ago? I was just shocked at what I saw in the fourth quarter. And all of that comes down to the defensive coordinator. Now, I don't want to bash and kill, and bash the defensive coordinator, but I'm just saying, Shane Bowen, man, you can't lose that game like the way you did.
Well, the way that I saw it, especially at the end, as deep as they were in like design coverages at the end of the game, I thought that took away from what they did in the entire game. If you're a Giants fan and you're looking at hope and progression and the team getting better, I mean, that was one of the best feelings, Charles, I've had on the Giants maybe in a couple of years. I mean, I'm telling the truth because I felt that they were arriving. Everybody's coming at the same time. Wandale Robinson helped out on offense, but same with the defense. I just thought that everybody played well. I mean, even Dexter, I saw him getting double teamed, beating the double team coming through. I thought Bobby Okereke, the linebacker, played well. Really, really impressed. And the bad thing is that you don't want a moral victory in the NFL. But it's either two things can happen. Do they excel from this moment that they did, or did they go back in kind of a lull? But it seems like this is a different football team. Under Jackson Dart, they seem like they're, at least the other team is going to fear what they do because they have some options. And I just thought the offense and defense played well for three quarters. And I think the coach, both whether it's offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator, should have been on top of what was going on to be able to monitor. Because going to have a 19-point lead and lose that in the fourth quarter, when you were young as kids when we play football, they say you lose in the fourth quarter because you're tired or it's a lack of, something happens. Because I remember we used to put number 4 up at Texas Tech for the fourth quarter because that means that we're supposed to be the better team that was in shape. But I think it was a combination of a bunch of stuff. But that was a bad loss to the Denver Broncos on Sunday.
It was, but I would like to say that I love the positive that you can take away is the first three quarters. Is that the team they have? And like you said, could they have succumbed to the air and the high elevation and the fact that it kind of took a toll on their body in the fourth quarter? Because I love that team I saw in the first
Yes,
three quarters. I mean,
absolutely.
that team is a playoff bound team. I think they can compete with that team in the first three quarters can compete with every team in the NFL. I don't care if you're Kansas City. I don't care if you're the Indianapolis Colts who have the best record in the AFC right now. I don't care who you are. I truly believe, based on what we saw in the first three quarters, they can compete and win. And win, I gotta say win, because at the beginning of the season, every prognosticator said they were losing at least 15 games. They weren't. They were only winning possibly 2. And Jackson Dart was going to be in by week 8, week 9 after the bye. And so how things have changed. I think all the prognosticators are eating their words. They realize that this team is in a youth movement phase where all these young guys are actually playing and they're playing well. And I'm really excited about what is to come. I just think that yeah, Shane Bowen gets a lot of the blame from my part, but yeah, Coach Dable, Brian Dable gets a lot of it too. Is he because he made a couple of errors on the offensive side of the ball as well as a coach? You got to pay attention. If you're not calling the plays, you got to manage time. You got to manage the game. That's why you're not calling plays is so you can manage the game. And I think at some points in the game he mismanaged that game when they took a delay of game penalty when I believe they were close to field goal range and they got backed up 5 yards because all he had to do was call a timeout and they got further out of field goal range at one point. And those are the things that kind of hurt.
I don't like analytics in football. What I've seen a lot is that you have the lead and then you don't kick the extra point, you go for two. That could have been the extra point the Giants needed. The field goal kicker missed two extra points. That's ridiculous. As a matter of fact, I know possibly under Parcells he may have got cut. I don't know for sure, but that messed up the game. I mean, how could the field? That's all he does is kick the extra point in the field goal. To miss two of them and then not going, not. I mean, going for 2 points. I thought it was poor management because you're already up. Every single point counts on that, and at the end of the game, that would have made the difference. They at least should have been able to tie the game, at least because all those little things they did chipped away at what Denver was doing, and they were able to come through. They got the momentum from the crowd and took it on in, and I just thought it was a poor performance from both offensively and defensively. But I'm blaming Brian because Dable because I just think that he's the one that could veto any call by anybody else. I know Parcells was on the earphones. If the defensive coordinator didn't make a good call, he would correct him. Offensive coordinator, same thing. And I think as a head coach, there's no one else to blame but yourself. And I just don't like the way that it ended because I think if they had won their game, Charles Wade, they'd have been talking about playoffs. Because the next week they play the Eagles coming to town and they beat the Eagles, so the Eagles are going to be ready to play, and it would be a clash of the Titans, and I think that would be outstanding.
Like I said, I still think that they have a chance. The way the parity there is parity in the league, there really isn't a great team. I think every team you look at the two surprise teams. Who would have thought you would be talking about the New England Patriots and the Indianapolis Colts as having a chance to win this year's Super Bowl? Who would have thought? Because those two teams are the best teams. And then look at what Kansas City. Kansas City started off 0-3, and now they're tied for first in the AFC West. So when you look at this entire league, I still think that if the Giants can rattle off 4 or 5 straight wins, they'll be right back in the mix. And I think given how the schedule is playing out now and we know that how this team can play and how this youth movement is driving this team, I really do think they can rattle off 4 or 5 straight wins if they can play mistake-free football.
I totally agree with you, but the thing about it now, I always make a judgment when they get to the halfway point. We're coming to the 8th week of the season. This is when the cream comes to the crop. They're beginning to play the kind of football that we thought they could play. It really shows me the difference in a quarterback on a team. The simple difference of one man coming in there and sparking the team. I see fire on the Giants offense. I see fire on the defense coming from the quarterback, knowing that he's going to allow them to play the way they want to. It has woke everybody up on the New York Giants. And despite their record being 2-5, if they can rattle off some good ones, I'm telling you, they still got a tough schedule ahead, and it's going to depend on a lot of things. But the tight end, Theo Johnson's playing well. I like when he catches the ball and uses his height and strength to get touchdowns. Scatterboo, he's a tough son of a gun. And this is what I wanted to say, Charles Wade. When a defense knows that a fullback is going to try to attack them and hit them in the head, they try to kick your behind. They try to hit him. I mean, even when he got in the end zone on a touchdown, they hit him in his head. And I think he's got to be ready for that all season long. You being a former fullback, I mean, you know they're after you. And I think that's what happened to Scatterboo is I saw, and I'm going to see probably from week to week, more teams going after him to try to kick his behind and wear him down.
Yeah, and just so you know, somebody was getting on Frontier Airlines after that loss, right? you know somebody, either a coach or a player, somebody was going to take Frontier Airlines home. I just found out Giants just released their kicker, and he is right on Frontier Airlines. They didn't even send him on United, which is the hub for Newark Airport. They're gonna send him on Frontier to say, "Look, you hurt us so bad, we're gonna make you feel our pain. So we're gonna put you on Frontier instead of Spirit."
That's deep. And I would do that, Charles. Now, you know, you've been involved with different things. If the kicker did that, and that's his only job, as I'm saying, I see if you were doing this job, you're a backup linebacker, you're a backup special team player, all he does is try to kick the ball. And he messed up in the most important time. The weird thing is that the Giants don't play at 4 o'clock a lot. And when they were in Denver, they kind of had to. When you play at 4 o'clock, that's more of a national audience. They put on a show for a lot of people on Sunday. And for the kicker to not come through, I mean, I know that's kind of crazy, but I think a lot of coaches would have did that. You got to send a message. If something goes wrong and it's your fault, you know, I know you didn't do it on purpose, but they may have to get somebody else.
He missed the field goal the week before too. That wasn't the first time he missed. He missed the field goal the week before. So he was already like you remember what I told you about Fairbairn on Texans, how when it's playoff time or when they have a big game and they're waiting for him to kick the game winning field goal, he misses the game. They should get rid of Fairbairn because Fairbairn is in the same boat as this. You got a good kicker and he's supposed to be able to handle pressure, then you got to make those field goals. You know, you don't want a kicker like this on your team. I don't care if you love him. He makes 99 out of 100 kicks in pressure situations. If he consistently misses in pressure situations, you don't want him there because you're going to need that kicker at some point in the playoffs or in the game where he's going to be in the pressure situation, last 2 seconds of the game, a field goal to win, easy field goal, he misses. You're gone. I don't care if you're making 99 out of 100. If you can't make the pressure kick, you're gone.
I 100% agree. And I almost have the little thing that kickers are not football players. You know, they don't get beat up in practice. They don't even practice with the team sometimes. So sometimes they're out there by themselves. So when you do the situation where they missed 2 extra points during the course of this game, it makes a big difference because each and every victory for the Giants is something that's going to propel them or is going to take away from Brian Daboll as head coach of the Giants. And for them to lose 2 games, one to the Cowboys 40-37 and the other day to the Denver Broncos, those are 2 losses where they really should be at least having 4 wins at this point. And it's the cause of them losing. You know, you can say anything. I get mad because Brian Daboll made the quarterback throw the ball in double coverage at the end. He should have never done that against the Cowboys, and the Cowboys were able to take over and win the game at the very end. So, you know, maybe Daboll's really got to step up. He's really got to get his game together because he's the head coach. You got to make decisions that are based on the whole team winning. You need wins right now. We're not trying to look good. You need to win. We don't need moral victories. We need games to be showing that we're getting better as a team. But there is hope, Charles. This is the first time the Giant fans have had hope in a long time. And I feel good about it because, you know, they're playing well on both sides of the ball. And you have to be pleased with the defense, the way they played for 3 quarters. It makes you think they could shut down anybody.
Well, it depends on if the defensive coordinator calls a good game. He has to call a good game, and he's gonna be under fire this week because and we'll talk about it on Thursday. They're playing the Philadelphia Eagles again, and they want retribution.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is our show for today. I hope you enjoyed it. We called the Expressway with Charles Show Me the Way and myself, Billy Taylor, the BT Express, and the Expressway. We're on each and every week. Check us out on YouTube, and then we're back later on Thursday to give you what we think is our predictions. For Charles Way, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Billy Taylor. Thanks for joining us.